This is Cottage Grove. As far as this train goes, is the current announcement for the last stop of the Green Line. However, this was not always the case. Prior to 1994, Green Line trains reached as far as University Avenue. And prior to 1982, trains went all the way to Jackson Park. When the Southside L first opened, there used to be even more stations. But starting in the 1940s, the CTA closed dozens of stations for faster service and to smoothen operations. As Chicago became more suburban, plus the Dan Ryan branch opening in 1969, the ridership of the Southside L continued to plummet. Deferred maintenance, just like New York City, was common, and in 1982, defects were found on the Dorchester Bridge that carried trains to Jackson Park. Service was cut back to University, but the tracks remained just in case the CTA wanted to re-extend service back to Jackson Park. And the CTA showed interest in doing so, as they repaired the bridge and rehabilitated the L structure. However, due to opposition against the L and how it was seen as a blight on the neighborhood, the CTA ended up tearing down that rehabilitated track and returned millions of dollars to the federal government marked for the extension. But just like New York City, the removal of an L does not translate into prosperity. Instead, the opposite happened, and Woodlawn slipped further into poverty. This is why, in my opinion, tearing down the L to Jackson Park has got to be one of, if not the worst decision the CTA has made in recent times. So, it does beg the question, should the Green Line be re-extended back to Jackson Park? The short answer is yes, but the long answer is much more complicated. Let's take a look at Woodlawn itself. Past Cottage Grove, there's only the 63 bus, a popular east-west bus in Chicago that saw 15,000 riders daily in 2019. Then there's the Metra 63rd Street station, and a fare to Millennium Station is $3.75 one way, which is way more than the CTA fare of $2.50. Trains here are very random, but generally come every 10 to 15 minutes during rush hours. But north of the 63rd Street station is the 59th Street station, which sees double the frequency, at around every 5 to 10 minutes. So usually, if riders want the Metra, they would opt for 59th instead of 63rd. But other than that, if you're the average person living in East Woodlawn, you may have little options other than taking the 63 bus to Cottage Grove or to the Red Line. The average person here makes around $23,000, meaning that the $3.75 fare would be a lot under budget. So, one might ask, instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars on extending the Green Line to Jackson Park, would implementing a regional rail type system on Metra, where fares in Chicago city limits are $2.50, more trains stopped at 63rd, and integrated transfers to the L, be enough to serve East Woodlawn residents here? To which I answer, that would be a great start, but far from ideal. If you look at census data, the western part of the loop makes up 13.6% of all jobs, which is by far the biggest destination of East Woodlawn residents. That is a hefty walk from Millennium Station. Furthermore, more people are working in the South Loop and Fulton Market, which is way outside the scope of Metra, and would require an L or bus connection. However, the Green Line does serve the West and South Loop and Fulton Market directly, which means if you extend the Green Line to Jackson Park, this means that East Woodlawn residents will have an easy connection to their jobs. Therefore, there is merit to the CTA Green Line extension back to Jackson Park, due to the sheer amount of connections it could bring. But the connections aren't just limited to destinations near the loop. The station on Jackson Park could be a new intermodal facility, with one exit at Stony Island Avenue for the 6, 15, and 28 buses, and another exit at Blackstone Avenue for a connection to Metro services. On the eastern end, the 6 bus has 8,700 riders, the 15 bus has 7,000 riders, while the 28 bus has 5,900 riders. That totals to 21,600 total riders on all 3 bus lines, and will be higher once the Jackson Park extension is finished, as these buses will serve as feeder buses to the Green Line. On the western end, an equally important connection exists to Metra. Green Line riders who wish to go further south can connect here at Jackson Park, while Metra riders who wish to connect to the Green Line to Fulton Market or the South Loop can also connect here. The latter is to be noted, as both the Green Line and Metra take a similar amount of time to get to the loop. However, the loop transfers are not as great, as it can take 3 minutes or more of walking to access stations in the loop from Millennium Station. But with the Jackson Park transfer, it would be a minute and be enclosed. With this easier transfer, it is reasonable to say that Jackson Park will see a ton of Metro riders transferring for the Green Line to Fulton Market and the South Loop. After all, Fulton Market and the South Loop, just like East Woodlawn, are also top destinations of Metro riders in South Chicago. Now, this extension would be great, as it will feature new connections, but what about service on a new line? After all, the Green Line has laughable service on its branches, with service theoretically running every 20 minutes during rush hour. That theoretically is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because those trains often get canceled or delayed. And if you're taking a train outside of rush hour, well, I wish you good luck, as you can see 90-minute gaps in between trains. That is unacceptable, which is why reverting to 2019 service is necessary. However, even with 2019 service, the branches see a train every 15 minutes, which is still bad. You can try timing those trains with Metro schedules, but that will leave bus riders in the dust. So to fix this, I would route the Purple Line with the Red Line through the State Street subway, instead of continuing with the Brown Line into the loop. But to pull this off, new switches would be installed immediately north of the Belmont flyover, so that the Purple Line trains can merge with Red Line trains without impacting Brown Line trains. The Purple Line would then use the 13th Street portal and connect with the Green Line, and take over either the Englewood or Cottage Grove branch. I would prefer the Purple Line to take over the Englewood branch, as more Englewood riders are heading to the North Side neighborhoods than Cottage Grove and South Side Metro riders. With these new changes, I proposed a Red Line to run 20 trains per hour, the Purple Line run 10 trains per hour, and the Green Line run 10 trains per hour. This means that the branches will get a train every 6 minutes, while Red Line riders will barely see a difference. There will be a new merge at the 17th Street junction. But since service on the South Side L is garbage, interlining it will actually increase service, not decrease it, thanks to one of my friends for this idea. And a quick side note, while we are on the branches, I think reopening Racine and Harvard stations on the Englewood branch would be beneficial. If you look at a map where Englewood riders are going, you will see that the areas around the Dan Ryan come up as top destinations. Therefore, reopening Harvard and connecting that to the 63rd Street station on the Red Line would help with connectivity. Since we're running the Purple Line here every 6 minutes instead of the Green Line every 20 minutes, this makes reopening these two stations much more worth it. All in all, not only would extending the Green Line back to Jackson Park do a lot for East Woodlawn, but also do a ton for the CTA rail system as a whole. There will be a new Metro connection at Jackson Park, which is definitely going to be leveraged as more Metro riders work outside the loop. Jackson Park could be the Southside L's busiest station, and given enough time, can possibly rival the numbers seen at 95th Street on the Dan Ryan branch. Finally, extending the Green Line also presents an opportunity to increase service on the Southside L and its two branches, as you don't want 20-minute frequencies on a new rail line. Anyway, this marks the end of this video. What are your thoughts about re-extending the Green Line back to Jackson Park? Tell us in the comments below. And if you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.